Hey, can someone check if hold on. I'm gonna link this stream real quick. Can someone check if it's working? If they're on the DSI Discord? Let me just. Just check if that's working right now. Also, if you haven't signed in, go ahead and do that. Yeah. It's working? All right, great. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, sounds like you hear me. Great. Right, sorry it took a while, but we're finally set. Is everyone signed in? Yes. Okay. All right. So, hi, I'm Mark, and this is data visualization in Excel. So, we're going to go through why use Excel in the first place, some applications, and then we'll go into the actual practical part. So, first, why Excel? Well, it's really versatile, really flexible. The main thing you can use it for is manipulating and organizing stored data. You can analyze all sorts of data with it, and you can visualize it in pivot tables, charts, dashboards, like what the image is right there. In terms of applications, there's a bunch. These are just a few of them. So for finance, you can budget for do forecasting, write up financial statements and modeling. For human resources, you can check through employee records, performance tracking, payroll calculations. Healthcare, they have patient data, scheduling, and reporting. Manufacturing has production planning, inventory and quality control, and so on and so forth. There's like a million industries that use Excel. So what makes a good visual? So before I get into the slide, take note of this visual. Oops, of this visual. Okay, this is what I would consider a pretty good example of what a good dashboard looks like. All right, this is a bad example. Don't do this. Okay, it's super, like the coloration is terrible. You can barely tell what's going on. Some of the text is blurry. Like it's not good. So what makes a good visual? First and foremost, it has to be clear and concise. Okay, you have to be able to get your message across to your target audience. It's also better if it's more simple. And use appropriate visuals as well. Just so, like, if you're trying to, for example, do something by category, a line plot is probably not the best option to go for. And if you have a million different things, maybe don't use a pie chart like this poor chap. So, all right, now for the practical. Just go to the GitHub workshop archive. It's Mateus's GitHub. This is the link. Just go to workshops under Excel and go ahead and download movies.csv. This is the data set we're going to be using. Okay. Once that's set, go ahead and open up a new Excel workbook. Just a blank workbook. Should be .xlsx. Oh yeah, I should probably ask, does anyone here not have Excel by any chance? You all have it? Okay. Just making sure. So you have your data, you have your new workbook. The first thing you want to do is go to the data tab and hit get data. Go from file, from text/CSV. And then under download, just search for where the CSV is. And you'll get a screen that looks something like this. All good? Thumbs up if you're good. Let me just go around. Okay. So once you do that, you just click transform data just to get a look at it. We're not going to do anything in Power Query. It's just to look at the screen for now, but just know that you can clean on this screen if you really want to. So once you're done looking, just hit close and load. Close this thing. And voila, you have your table. So the reason I did this instead of just opening the CSV file directly and just changing it into a workbook is just so I have the original CSV, like untainted, uncleaned. So this essentially creates a separate copy of the information. Make sure you save this, by the way, in case your Excel mysteriously crashes. I'm going to go ahead and save mine as data visualization workshop. Okay. So first thing you notice, right? Movies, you have your movies, rating, genre, year of release, date of release, whatever this is, the IMDb score, the amount of votes it got, the director, writer, lead actor, country it was released in, the budget and gross, the company, and the runtime. So right off the bat, if we want to get to cleaning this, I'm going to get rid of a bunch of columns that I know I'm just not going to use. So that's essentially just the names. Just hit delete. Company, right click, delete. I'll keep it movie names just so you have something to look at, but we're not going to use them. Just know they're there. So once that's done, you may notice if you scroll down a little that we have some blank entries here. And that's not good. So we have to get rid of them in some way. So how do we go about doing that? Well, what we could do is go to Home, hit this little magnifying glass over here, the Find and Select. You go here, you go to Find, and then when it says Find what, just leave it blank. What this essentially does is that it looks for every entry that is blank, and you hit Find All. And this should be a list of all the rows, since it's searching by rows, all the rows with a blank, with a blank entry somewhere. So there's one, there's one, there's another one. Yeah. So if you want to get rid of them, just Control A. Right click on the, Control A. Okay. There we go. Right click and then just hit delete table rows. Uh-oh. Why is it doing that? Uh-oh. Well, this is awkward. Okay, bit of a backup here. Since everything is selected, we can just go by each column, get to the blanks, filter those out, select all these, right click, delete entire sheet row. And those are all the blanks for one column. If you forget where your filter is, you can just go to Data, the Sort and Filter section, and just clear. Okay, that's one column without blanks. Now we just repeat this. Okay. And you guys following? Yeah, getting rid of your blanks. Okay, rating. Let me just check real quick that if there's any left. Oh, just one. There we go. So if you've gotten rid of all your blanks, or if you think you have and you want to make sure, you can just search for them again. And if it leads to no results, then you're good. So if you guys want to check, just Find and Select. Find. What's up? Oh, yeah. You just go under Data. It's under a Sort and Filter column. And if you want to just clear your filter, hit the clear button. Sure.
After you select blanks, like how do you delete it? After you select blanks, like from the column, like how do you delete them?
You just go column by column and filter out the blanks.
Yeah, but when you filter out the blanks, like.
You select the whole table. Like you click on a cell, select it, you right click, and you hit this delete and then table rows or sheet row or entire sheet row. Yep. Make sure you're not selecting like these column bits specifically, or else you might delete the entire table in the process, which is not what we want. So if you want to make sure there's no blanks, look at that, no blanks, great. What's up?
I did the delete, and I don't know what is it to like see the rest of the table here.
Let me go over there.
Oh, thanks.
Just let me know if you guys are done with the blanks. Thumbs up if you're set.
all these people that work in construction. You just try to do it. Thanks.
All good?
Yeah.
All right. So once you've gotten rid of the blanks, let's see here. You're going to want to check our formatting. So first things first, let's look at the budget and the gross. These are supposed to be money, but the the main formatting is general. So if you want to change the format of a column, just click on the column itself and then go under the number section of home. And well, in our case, we want to make it currency. So just hit currency. Ta-da. And then how do you suppose we do the same for budget? Come on.
Do the same thing. You click on the G or I,
Okay.
and then you go on the top where it says the number, and it changes to currency as well.
There we go. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, that's the easier one, I think. The other one we want to take care of is the release date. Now, if we look at the released column, we can see that, yeah, it has the release dates, and that's nice and all. But it also has the country it was really of the date, and that's not super helpful. So we want to find some way to get rid of that. And to do that, we can just make a new column. So just click on a column, right click it, and hit insert, column 1. We're gonna rename this into release date. And what you're gonna do, since Excel has like a billion formulas that do all sorts of things, that's part of its versatility. So if you just mix and match some formulas, you can just make it so that you can filter out this certain text string and without the country part. So the way to go about that is you just go equals left of the, we'll just go E2. That's the cell to the left of this one. And you can see below here that Excel tells you how the formula works per se, like it tells you what to input. And so here it wants the number of characters. And instead of putting a specific number, since it might vary between cells, what we're going to do is actually we're going to use another function called find. And what the find essentially does is it returns the number corresponding to the appearance of a character. So if you want to find, say, a parentheses, you just surround it in quotes within, again, E2, and you close that. And let's just see what happens. Also, make sure your formulas are in all caps. And okay, we almost got it, but it looks like we left out a parentheses here as well as a space. So what we can do, since this find part is the length, like the number of characters, we can just do that and subtract 2. And let's see what happens now. Okay, looks good. Now let me just check. Oops. Here's the formula, by the way, just before I look at it. So having opened this, it seems like some of the movies have just release years in their release date, We don't want that. And since we don't actually know the release date of these, we can just get rid of them. So actually, I'll do that once you guys do this part first. So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to filter out all the, all the values that just are years. So, and it's just these 5 movies. Shame on you. So just Control A, select all of them, right click, delete, and they're gone. So clear the filter, and we're back. Make sure to save periodically. All right. So these formulas are nice and all, but it's best if we have some way of, say, leaving it in the actual, as like an actual value rather than a formula. So if you guys want to do that, what you're going to want to do is select the first cell of a column. So June 13th, 1980. Hit Control Shift down. Might be a little different on Mac. Basically, just find a way to select every value in the column, save for the release date part. Just hit Control, and then right click. And what we're going to do is paste the values. So do that, and no more formula. Great. And the last thing we want to do, we can get rid of this column now since it's kind of useless. The last thing we want to do is make sure this is a date value. So if we just go to short date, I don't know about that actually. If you guys want a guaranteed way to make it so that's a date, just use this formula. Since technically this is still a set of string, like it's just text, simply changing it to a date type on the thing on Excel won't really make it a date. Sometimes it happens. So if you want to do that, just make sure. So say you want to, now we have a bunch of formulas on this column. Say you want to turn them into values. How do you do that? We just did it. So what's up?
I missed that last part for actual control shift down.
Got you.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah. It's up to you. You just together.
shift doesn't select it in the right way that it is. Is it, is it like, so I, like, does it highlight it over?
Are you doing like that? I got you. I got you. So, okay, so just.
No, because if you're inserting a copy itself, it's just going to use that.
Okay, no, wait. How does it unselect this?
Just put this.
Okay, it works
Got it.
like this.
There you go.
Okay. You just like, you put something in the option, so it's making you count.
No, yeah. You did.
Oh, I was going on the side. Like this one. Like, and then confuse it. And then like.
What's up?
select all of them. Well, not in there, in the first value. And then you should down.
How do you select? Because I'm not sure to select.
Yeah, just select the whole column.
And then just. Or
Make
actually.
sure it's a date on that column, otherwise you're just going to get a weird number.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Is everyone on that screen yet?
Did you delete the other column with the?
Yeah, the original one. What I'm doing now is just turning this text into an actual date. So once you do that, just repeat the same process. Control, copy. Oops. And then paste values. Oop. And there you go. This is our new release date now. Yep. And if you want to shorten the column, just double click this bit, and there you go. Okay, we're done cleaning. Now we can get to the actual pivots. So if you want to make a pivot table, it's honestly pretty easy. You just Control A the entire table, click Insert, and hit Pivot Table. And now you just have to specify where you want to put it. So you can either make it a new worksheet entirely, which is what I'm going to do, or you can go hit an existing worksheet and then for example, specify the cell that you want to put the pivot table in. If you don't specify the cell, it won't work. So just make sure. So either way, I'm going to make a new worksheet. Oops. Hold on. New worksheet. There you go. And this worksheet is going to have our pivot table in it. In fact, I'm going to rename this into pivot table. Okay, why did I do that? And now, okay, just select the whole table, click Insert, go to Pivot Table.
And then to convert the date, you did like date value, or how did you?
Hold on. I just used equals date value on a new column, And then I did the same thing to make the formulas into values.
Okay.
Make sure the data type of the column is a date
Okay.
and not general. Short date is preferable. You could do long date. It's just a longer date.
Just curious, if there's like a typo or something on the dates.
If there's a typo, it's going to show up in an error somewhere.
Okay.
Like it's just going to be like, for example, this is going to be like something like this.
Okay.
You can filter those out. So let me know if you're at this screen. All good? Okay. Pivot tables, they're really versatile. You can put just about whatever. So let's start off pretty simple. You're gonna want to put something in the rows first. So let's say genre first. So here are all the genres in our table. And let's say we want to know how many movies of each genre are in the table. So what you do is you go to genre again and just place it onto the values, and there's your count. So in the table we have 1,415 action movies, 277 animations, so on and so forth. Now, say instead of genre, I wanted to do year. How would I do that? Yeah. Where do I put it though? Or do I replace something? Sure. Throw this out. Put in year. And okay, you get sum of year, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for count. So if you want to change from a sum to say a count or an average, you just click on the thing, hit value field settings, and here are a bunch of things you can use. So I'm gonna hit count, okay, and there you go. There are 40 movies from 1980, 149 from 1997, so on and so forth. So from there, let's make another pivot table. Actually, no, we're gonna make a chart first. So if you guys wanna make a chart out of this, you just go to insert again. And there's two ways to go about it. You can either use a recommended chart, but those are a bit finickier with pivot tables. You can do them with the regular tables. Just for the purposes of this workshop, we'll stick to pivot charts. So click on pivot chart, and you have a million options for your chart. Since this is just counts, we'll go with a column. So, okay, and boom. Here is your very first pivot chart. So the first thing you might notice is, what is all this unnecessary count of year, this random legend? How do I get rid of it? So it's actually not pretty simple. If you want to get rid of the buttons, or that's what these things are, I think, you just click on one of them, you right click. Why is it not right clicking? There you go. You right click and you go all the way to hide all field buttons in chart. And you just click that and they're gone. Look at that, it's already 10 times more readable. And now if you want to customize your thing further, you click this plus sign. And here are a bunch of chart elements you can add or remove. We don't need a legend, so we can just check that off. Let's say we wanted, for example, axis titles. We can just check this on. Now we have axis titles for both. let's say since the horizontal column is really obvious, so let's say we only want a vertical one. Well, then we can just check off that. And okay, this looks better. And now if we ever want to rename one of the axes, we can just double click on the text box, select this, and what do you guys think is a good name for this? What do you guys think is a good name for this chart? Movies per year? Sounds good to me. All right. And then here we'll just call this calendar. Great. So next thing we can do is, if you want to, for example, change how the bars themselves look, that's not too bad. You can just click on one of them. It'll select everything. If you double click, it'll select one of them specifically. But if we want to change the color for all, we have to just single click that, right click, and go to Format Data Series. And here you can change the gap width, the series overlap. I'm going to change it to around 50% to make it a bit thicker, but not super like insane. And if you want to change the color, there's a few ways to do that. You can either go to Fill, change it through here, or you can just right click it directly, change the fill to green, for example. Or you can go here, go to page layout, colors, and here you have a bunch of palettes. You can go with any sort of these, or you can make your own. You can get accent 3, just change it to say a slightly lighter green. Save that, and there you go. So that's one chart. Let's see if we can do now another pivot table. Okay. So if you guys want to make a new pivot table, what's the first thing you do? Select all the data. What's next? Go to Insert. Pivot table. Let's put it on an existing worksheet this time. So where do you go from there? Okay. And then? What's the last thing you do? That won't work. You got to be a little more specific than just the sheet. Teeny bit more specific. Not just the column. What else? I'm floating over it right now. I'm hovering over it. The cell. There we go. Specify the cell or else it's going to fail. Also, make sure that if you're making a new pivot table, keep it far away from your other pivot tables, because otherwise, if you try to edit one, it might overlap, and Excel really doesn't like it when you try to overlap, and it will just refuse to comply. So just hit OK. New pivot table. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, now here.
So you said this is going to be on YouTube, right?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mark.
No problem. Have a good one. So let's say we want, last time we did count, let's say we want to see what the runtime has looked over each year. So we want to go by year. What would the values be that we're looking for? Okay. Where's runtime? There you are. Now we have sum of runtime. Now, the thing about sum, not very useful in this case. So what do you think we should change it to in order to make it a little more useful? Average? Okay. How do we do that? Value field settings. average, and okay. All right, a bit better. I don't think I need this many decimals. So I'm actually going to reduce that. And how the way you reduce that is you go back to value field, you go to number format, hit number, and just, yeah, 2 sounds good. Okay, okay. And look at that, 2. Much easier to look at. So now let's say we want to make a chart out of this. Okay, how do we do that? Insert, pivot chart. Now, what kind of chart do you suppose would be better for this case? You want to do like a column or a line, maybe?
Well, you can see like the trends, so I guess maybe line.
That sounds good. Let's do that. All right, that's our new one. How do we get rid of the buttons?
Right click,
Right click.
and IL.
Nice. How do we get rid of this legend?
So plus, yeah, keep it like that.
All right. No, I'm going to expand this a little. And we're just going to call this average runtime over years. Runtime per year. Now, the vertical labels here are kind of hard to read. So if you want to, for example, make them more horizontal, it's not too bad. I mean, same thing you do as most of the other things in a pivot chart. You just click on it, right click, format axis. And then you go to text options, go up in this thing, the text box, and hit vertical alignment. Oops, go to text direction. And hold on. Maybe it's just a little too. I mean, yeah, you can add a custom angle. Let's keep it at 45 or negative 45. Angles can only go from negative 90 to 90, so keep that in mind. And this is a little more legible. What's up?
I was just gonna say, is it, like, for repeating purposes, is there a way to, I guess, skip years?
You mean like filter them out
Yeah, because like maybe, I don't know, maybe you'd want to do every 5 years, say,
every 5 years?
like on a chart.
Gotcha.
Like,
I think the best way to do that is just to make a new column on your table that just that like checks every 5 years.
Would it also work if you like press the little down arrow on row labels?
This
and
just
you select-
filters the individual year.
So, oh, okay, so it'd be like inconvenient to like, I guess maybe select like 81, 82, 83, 84.
Yeah. So we're running a little low on time. So I'm going to finish this off with something to make your, like say you're making a dashboard. A dashboard in reality is just a bunch of these charts, maybe a few of these tables, and something that is called either a slicer or a timeline, depending on what data type you're using. So let's make a slicer. So the thing you want to make a slicer, you just click on a pivot table, go to insert. Sorry, not pivot. You go to analyze, and over here, you go to insert slicer. And let's do it by genre first. Okay. And here is your slicer. Look at it. It's great. And what a slicer does is that it's essentially a filter, like a real-time filter for both your tables and your charts that are connected to it. So let's say we want to only filter by action movies. Boom. Okay, let's say we want to go by family movies. Boom. Now, if you want to filter by multiple things, what you do is you hit this little button here for multi-select, and you just select multiple. So that's neat. And if you want to clear it, just clear it. Now, okay, so that was one slicer. Let's say I want another slicer, but for Rating. How would I do that?
So like the, then you just have to, let me see.
It's the first thing you do.
Could you just make the slicer for rating?
How do I make the slicer?
So you click the table, then go to pivot, table, analyze.
Okay,
Insert slicer.
insert slicer. And what do I pick?
Rating.
Rating. There we go. Okay. And there it is. So it has all the ratings in our table. Let's say we want to know how all the G movies are. Okay, yeah, they're not particularly long, at least comparatively. Say you want to look at PG movie, PG-13, R, stuff like that. And the other kind of like filtration device, quote unquote, is a timeline. Now, if you want to do a timeline, this is actually another way to pick a pivot as well. You go to Analyze, you hit this little button on the top right. This opens the field list. That's what this thing is, by the way. If you ever close this and you want to open it back up, here's the button for it. And if you want to make a timeline or a slicer or something, first off, if you're making a timeline, the timeline only works for date objects, which is why I was so adamant about making a date column. So you just go to your date, you right click it, and you go add as timeline. And there it is. And now for a timeline, you can sort it by years, quarters, months, days. And this is a slider that goes through all of them. Now, since this goes from 1980 to 2020, it's a pretty big timeline. So I wouldn't exactly recommend something of this size specifically. I'm just doing it to show you what it looks like. Why isn't it expanding? Hold on. Why isn't it? There we go. And now if you want to, for example, know what happens between 2019 and 2020, there you go. So that's what a timeline looks like. And one last thing, if you want to connect, say, another pivot table to your slicers, notice, for example, this bar column movies per year does not change, even if I click on any of these. If you want to connect it, what you do is you go to slicer, you select one, you go to slicer, you go to report connections, and this gives you a list of all of your pivot tables. So if you want it to connect to the other pivot table, just check it, click OK. And now just crime. Voila, it changes. All right, so we ran out of time here, unfortunately, but this should be the bulk of how to visualize data in Excel. So hopefully you take this information and use it for great things. Thank you all for coming, and have a great day.